Guarantee of quality is not guaranteed. Guarantee of service is not guaranteed. The certain bit rate. Guarantee of reception is not guaranteed. The respect of diversity is not guaranteed. The social access and the different country situations are not taken into account. So the rural broadband, based on the digital dividend spectrum, cannot deliver the same service and will create, with all respect, a new digital divide. And I would like to refer to Gordon Brown, who said something very strong last week. And he said, the UK Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, but leaving this to the market alone would lead to coverage determined not by need or by social justice, but just by profitability, and a lasting, pervasive and damaging new divide. And further on he said, if you just leave it up to the market, it will not go into the cities, it won't go out into the rural Cornwall, for example, he said. So, let me go back to, I will conclude myself. I believe in this discussion we have to use resources efficiently. It's all about spectrum. And here I also think this rigor has to be applied for everybody in the discussion. So please, there are other opportunities today to deliver wireless broadband. There are other technology solutions to deliver wireless broadband. And there is spectrum and frequencies which is underused. So please, operators, use what is not used. I would like even to go further. Some people use a discussion about MPEG 2, MPEG 4, which is correct. We have to follow the digital. I conclude with this one, which will be a very strong message. I invite everybody to follow the technical developments. And I have been informed that today, 60 to 70% of all mobile users still use 2G technology, a technology of 20 years ago. So can we please have next to the digital dividend discussion, a mobile dividend discussion? That these guys also implement the latest technologies. And I will finalize. Sorry for that. I have 3 seconds. I think if all parties respect diversity, guarantee quality, and use resources efficiently, I think the European citizens will have the service they need and deserve.
If not, I'm obliged to cut you, because you have 7 minutes.
I know. Europe will have an innovative...
but the others, they respect it, even the members.
Excuse me.
Thank you. We can hear now Mr. Richard Fize from GSM Association.
Thank you.
You have the floor.
Thank you very much. I think everybody in the room understands the importance of the debate that we're having, and I hope this summit proves to be a very important milestone in a journey that Europe has been taking in modernising its spectrum framework. Spectrum is the core input into the mobile sector that the GSMA represents, and the mobile sector is, we believe, going to provide the core input into building the digital Europe that we see as the future of the European economy and society. The issues at stake are enormous. The impact potentially of getting digital Europe right is 6–7% in terms of productivity gains in Europe, 2–3% in terms of Europe's GDP, and the sort of smart grid benefits that we were heard referred to earlier are, on our calculations, equivalent to the entire carbon output of the country of Belgium. So the stakes are enormous. Not only is it important, though, it's also, there's also a sense of urgency. It's important not only that we focus on the strategy for Europe, but also that we focus on the execution. All of us in companies know that if you focus on one to the exclusion of the other, you fail. And the same is true of countries and of continents. So far as the digital dividend is concerned, we are in quite a good place in our view so far as the strategy is concerned. But Europe faces, as ever, significant challenges in execution by the member states. We have a harmonised approach to the release of the spectrum, but we have a multi-speed Europe emerging. And we are already 2 years behind the United States in the unlocking of that spectrum and its use for the next generation of broadband technologies. We need to catch up. There are, I think, 3 fundamental strategic challenges which in the next 10 years will determine whether Europe becomes again a leader in mobile industries in the world and whether we realise the aspirations of the digital Europe that we all hope for. The first of those is unlocking the appropriate quantity of spectrum for mobile uses going forward. Today, our industry, the mobile industry, uses about 4% of the spectrum below 10 gigahertz. When we release the digital dividend and 2.6 gigahertz spectrum, we will be using 6%. Last week, as you heard, the United States identified a further 500 megahertz of spectrum that it plans to release for its mobile industry, which it wants to be the leading industry in the world. And that will mean that their industry will account for 10% of the spectrum by 2020. Europe needs to have a similar level of ambition for its mobile industry, and we should set ourselves a target of finding 10% of the available spectrum for the mobile industry. And we need to move faster than the United States because we have the problems of execution in terms of fragmentation and coordination that the United States doesn't face. So strategically, we need to be ahead of them if we're to end up in the same place to match their ambition going forward. The second risk and the second challenge is we need to get the structure of that spectrum right. Today, we are trying to build the next generation of broadband networks on an allocation of spectrum that was made and designed for the narrowband voice world of 15 years ago. That means that the spectrum is allocated in very small blocks, which are suitable for voice services, but are too fragmented for building the next generation of broadband systems. Vodafone, the company I work for, only has 20 megahertz blocks, which is the amount you need to build the next generation of broadband systems, in 1/3 of the member states that we are present in at the moment. We are not going to be able to build the next generation of broadband networks with the structure of the spectrum that we have today. We need to reorganize it. That is complicated. It will take time, but we need to meet that challenge now to ensure that it's organized in the right way to build the next generation of networks. And thirdly, we need to be able to exploit the benefits that the Parliament, this institution, and the Commission identified only a year ago by being able to reuse the spectrum that we already have as an industry, so-called refarming. At the moment, there is enormous uncertainty about whether and when mobile operators will be able to retain spectrum that is coming to the end of its current legal life. And how well we handle that issue will, as a third issue, determine ultimately whether Europe again is a leader in the mobile sector. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, merci d'avoir tenu votre...
Thank you very much, and thank you for sticking to the allocated time there. I'll give the floor straight away to my colleague, Patricia Toia, who, on behalf of Parliament, was the rapporteur on the digital dividend. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be very brief. I won't actually need my 5 minutes. I need to go to another committee meeting where I need to intervene as well, so I do apologise for having to leave straight after this. But I'll just pick out a few points. We call this radio spectrum and what is being done for digital dividend a strategy, but I do think that at the European level, here at least, where we are a political body, a legislative body as well, we don't just need the scientific input, but we need to be aware that this is a great opportunity, an economic and social opportunity, and that this is a small treasure, really. And I do think we need to cherish that treasure. If we don't use this carefully, and if we don't think this through from a technical and economical point of view, then we will be losing a lot of the significance that this opportunity brings us. And it ties in with what others have said about the fact that we're playing catch-up to other areas in the world who are ahead of us in this field. Now, if we don't want to lose this economic and social treasure, what it represents for our citizens and our companies, I do think we need to clarify one point, which is going to be difficult to clarify from the institutional point of view. That is, to what extent do we want the European dimension to be involved here? when we look at the approach we take, the integrated approach, the level of harmonization, and so on, are we talking about just